story that starts in a dark jungle. Sort of dark, but sort of light. Jungles can be nice places to live and nice places to put human communities. So there was a village in the midst of a jungle with a clearing and lots of little huts, cooking fires, a wonderful village ruled by a very sweet and brave and wise queen who had 5 sons and 1 daughter. They were all special. They were all talented in their own ways. The daughter had a particular talent beyond being brave and strong and fierce. She was sweet, she was fair-minded, and she had a beautiful singing voice. So every morning, the village, no one needed an alarm clock because they'd all wake up hearing the sound of the princess's morning song. Now, when I heard this from another storyteller, they never said what that song was. So I've always wondered, is it when our heart is in the holy place? I don't know. Well, the princess woke up the whole village every morning with whatever that morning song was, and that was the favorite of everyone in the village except this one creature who lived actually in the jungle outside the village. You see, the jungle was very deep, and a ways away from the village there was a great big lake. It was kind of a dark and murky looking lake, and underneath all that water was mud, mucky mud, and underneath the mud was a rocky bottom with a great big dark hole in it, and way down at the bottom of the hole lived a really big snake. This snake was so big, it could swallow a whole young cow. You know, snakes can kind of unhook their jaws a little bit and open them wide. Oh man, that snake was a big snake. And that snake did not like the morning song, did not like fairness or sweetness or light, and so did not like the princess at all. So one late night, early morning, just before the sun begins to rise, that snake was out hunting through the jungle and realized that he had come to the edge of the village. There was that camped down, hard earth path, and the snake stuck his head out and he sniffed the air. You know how snakes sniff the air? With their tongues. The snake sniffed the air and didn't smell any humans around, so he crossed that dirt path and went to the first hut. And the snake stuck his head in the hut and sniffed the air again. It was the princess's hut. Oh my goodness. The snake realized that inside that hut, the princess was all alone and fast asleep. So the snake went into the hut, went up by the princess's head where she softly slept, and he unhooked those jaws, opened his mouth wide, and ate the whole princess in one bite. And then turned around, sniffed the air again, just for good measure, and back through the jungle to his lake, down through the water, down through the mud, through the hole, and curled up in his little den and went to sleep. Well, the sun, of course, did come up, and there was no sound in the village, and the queen woke up and said, "What's this silence that greets my ears?" She says, "I wonder if my daughter's become a teenager because she's never slept past her morning song before. I'm going to go tease her and wake her up." But of course, when the queen went to her daughter's sleeping hut, she found it was empty. The mat was empty. The daughter was gone, and the queen shouted, "Save my daughter!" Well, all the village woke up at that cry, and all the brothers came running to the queen. And they looked and saw the empty sleeping mat, and she said, "Find my daughter!" Well, the first brother stepped up to help. He had a special talent, and his talent was he could sniff a trail better than anyone. So he got on his hands and knees, and he started to sniff. "Snake," he said, "I can smell it." And he started to follow the path of the snake with everyone trailing along behind. He sniffed all the way through the jungle. He sniffed right up to the edge of the water. Well, you can't smell a trail in water, so he was done. He just had to stand back. And the queen again said, "Save my daughter!" So then the second brother stepped up. Now he had a talent too. Remember, everybody has their own talents. This family was no different. This brother got down on his hands and knees, and his lips became long like a straw, and he prepared to take into himself all the water. He began to suck up that water, and his talent was that his belly could expand to a huge amount. And so, big sip by big sip, he sucked down all the water in the lake till there was nothing but mud left. And that brother stepped back. He was done. But the queen said, "Find my daughter!"
But when the snake popped up, Daddy, when he found mud.
He found mud, but the third brother, well, that was no problem for him because he had great big scooper-like hands, and his talent was that he could dig so fast. And he began to dig that mud out of the way. He began to pile it up on the edge of that lake. And before you know it, there was nothing but the rocky bottom with that big dark hole in it. And the queen said, "Save my daughter!" So the fourth brother stepped up. Now his talent was kind of unusual. His limbs could stretch really long. So he stuck his hand down in that hole and made his arm stretch all the way down, and he could feel that snake, and he grabbed him by his little skinny tail and pulled him up out of the hole, threw him out onto the riverbank, onto the bank of the lake, and carefully, they could see the lump. They took a knife, they cut that snake open and lifted out the princess. But it looked like she was dead. She didn't breathe, she didn't move, she was still and quiet. And the queen said, "Save my daughter!" Well, that's when the fifth brother stepped up. Now, the fifth brother, I heard from another storyteller, was magic. And who knows, maybe it was medicine. Maybe it was the power of all her brothers. But however it was, this brother reached into his pocket. He pulled out some powder. It looked almost like glitter falling down over the princess. He pulled out a rattle with feathers on it. He began to shake the rattle and began to dance to the rhythm, sing some words, and finally the princess sat up, took a big breath, and began to sing her morning song. So here's the question for everyone to ponder today. Who saved the princess?
The brothers.
One time a kid said, "The snake." Think about it. We don't know. We're going to sing you out to your classes with another one of my favorite songs.